Are you ready to unlock your full potential and maximize your productivity? Look no further than Productivity Smarts, the ultimate audio podcast hosted by renowned productivity expert Gerald J. Leonard. In every episode, Gerald shares captivating stories, invaluable tips, and cutting-edge strategies that will transform the way you approach productivity. Whether you're looking to reduce stress, overcome overwhelm, or simply get more done in less time, Productivity Smarts has got you covered. But that's not all. You'll also gain inspiration from real-life success stories of individuals who have achieved greatness through productivity. Plus, you'll learn the latest tools, techniques, and habits that will help you achieve a new level of happiness and fulfillment in your personal and professional life. So why wait? Join us every week as we delve into the exciting world of productivity and help you unleash your full potential. Get ready to take your productivity to the next level with Productivity Smarts. As a productivity expert and host of the Productivity Smarts podcast, Gerald J. Leonard has been a proud supporter of Kiva since 2011. Kiva is a non-profit organization that helps entrepreneurs in third world countries access the capital they need to start or grow their businesses. By making a small loan through Kiva, you can help these entrepreneurs achieve their dreams, support their families, and contribute to their local economies. And with a repayment rate of over 96%, your loan can be re-lent to another entrepreneur once it's repaid, creating a ripple effect of positive change. So if you're looking for a meaningful way to make a difference in the world, consider making a loan through Kiva. With loans as small as $25, anyone can be a micro-lender and help change lives. Visit kiva.org to learn more and start lending today.
Well, today I am speaking to Don Eggspuehler, who is the author of Letters to Mom, a Marine corporate boot camp flight school in Vietnam, a former Marine corporal who flew or piloted an A6A, but turned into a software executive and writer. Don shares his reflections, discipline, and storytelling and how it drove him to have a productive and balanced life. Don, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Gerald. Happy to be
Excellent, excellent. I almost called you what your first sergeant called you when you get started, which is, if you read this book, which is some amazing letters, he was first called Egg Pusher.
That's right.
So let me ask you, before we get started, what is your favorite style of music?
Oh, I think it's basically been rock and roll all my life.
Okay.
I was a real big Beatles fan, obviously. I thought they were just so far and above anybody else south at the time. And it just progressively kept getting better and better and better.
Well, it's really interesting because I released a 4-song EP of bass music of some Beatle remakes, like Come Together, Michelle, Eleanor Rigby. And as I studied the Beatles, because I write about them in one of my books, I began to realize that a lot of songs that I thought were done by other artists that are very famous songs were actually written by the Beatles. And so I thought, wow, that's really cool. So yeah, I love the Beatles. They're a really great group. They have great melodies, and they've written a lot of just iconic music. So listen, You've gone from fighter pilot to boot camp to flight school to Vietnam to now selling as an executive and selling software for the last 35 years. And I believe you're retired now, but that you have really built this amazing life with all of the challenges and things that you've gone through. But through the whole part of it that really brought us together was you sharing me about your book, where throughout that whole process of being in the military, you wrote letters to your mother. And it chronicled your entire experience and all that you went through. And that's where the Egg Pusher comes from. That in the first chapter, a letter that you wrote to your mom about what you were called and had to do push-ups in your civilian clothes before you got started. So let me ask you, what is that one thread, that one thing about your life that you felt like has really helped you to become successful and to be successful throughout your career?
Well, I would say it's basically how do you react to things that happen in your life? Because again, some things you have control over, and some
Right.
things you don't. But it's how you react to them that really, I think, makes all the difference. The Vietnam War had been going on for several years while I was in high school and college, and
Mm,
we're all worried about getting drafted. And
right.
on the day I graduated from college at Ohio State, I got my draft notice. And
Oh,
my
wow.
mom, graduation, and she said, "Well, you better promise me you'll write me letters regularly and send me lots of pictures." And I said, "I promise I will, Mom." And that's all this was. It was
It was a
I had
promise.
so I did get into an officer program, did get into flight school. I already had my pilot's license in college, so that helped
Okay.
a lot.
Yeah.
So that fall, I went into the Marine Corps and into boot camp and started writing her letters right off the bat. And that's an interesting thing because it's kind of a lost art. Most people don't write letters anymore,
Yeah.
and it's so
It's
important when
sending
you're
emails. Right.
to get a letter uh, from home or from.
Yeah. Well,
So,
things have changed quite a bit.
oh
Hey,
yeah,
you can send an instant message, but I know in the military, they probably frown on using cell phones because it gives you away, right? You can't use certain technology out in the field because it gives your position away to the enemy. So you can't just be sending texts and things like that. So I'm sure
oh yeah.
for those who are probably in the military, and don't have the privilege of the electronic devices that we all have now because they can't give away their position or writing letters. But yeah, you're right. It is a lost art as far as being able to communicate and really lay out your thoughts, because that's the biggest thing is you have to really think about what am I conveying here, and some of it's stream of consciousness, and some of it's just kind of telling what's going on in your day and in your life and the different situations and different adventures that you've been on or challenges that you faced, but you're able to express that. But I believe that the reason you held on to them was because your mom collected them and had them so tell me about that story, that after all of this was done and all the letters were there, and what really inspired you to write it, and how did you find all these collections of letters?
But that's a great question. And, I came back from Vietnam really pretty bitter about the World War. I'd lost 7 really good buddies. They were shot
Oh,
in
wow.
the squadron. So I didn't talk about Vietnam to either my friends or my family. And it was 6 years later that my mom got cancer, and I went up to Iowa to visit her. And we're just sitting there having a cup of coffee. And I said, "Hey, Mom, did you ever save any of those old letters?" And she says, "Oh, yeah, I saved them all. And they're in a box up in the attic. And I'm going to get them back down and read them someday." And I said, "No, you're not, Mom. You've got enough problems to deal with right now." So, but I said, "I
Right.
could take them home and read them." And I did. And I really got some closure out of going back through the letters because there are a lot of
Mm.
funny things that happened
Yeah.
behind. And I thought, well, the best thing I could do is take a little bit from each letter and type it up because most of them are handwritten and really kind of hard to read. And
Yeah.
and I put them together in a book to give her as a Christmas present. And it was the best present I ever gave her. It really was. She just
Oh,
loved
wow.
it. And again, she died about a year later from the cancer. And
Right.
I got the book back, and it sat in my closet for 40 years. And I thought, maybe this would be helpful to other Vietnam vets or Afghanistan vets, or even people that haven't been in the military. What it's like
Right.
to go into
Right.
camp and fight school and go into combat. So that's why I published it this last year, and I really have gotten some great response from it. The people really enjoyed reading the stories, laughing. There's some tough spots too. When we were in combat, flying night missions over North Vietnam, you're all
Right.
by yourself, no
Right.
radio control. So, but I wanted her to know what was going on and
Yeah.
not to too much. And so that's
Exactly.
why
Exactly.
most of them were lighthearted,
Right.
most of the letter.
Now, in your book, again, they're very personal letters, right? Because you're writing directly to your mom to kind of explain what's going on in your life and all the challenges that you're facing. And obviously, once you went back through them, you said it gave you a lot of closure. And I think that's a lesson within itself about journaling, right? That sometimes when we are working through things and we can't get over things by ourselves, and maybe we're not at the point where we feel like we need to go to a therapist or someone, something like that. But I'm sure, when you have those pent up emotions or challenges that you're facing, that you tend to allow that stuff to bottle up. But by writing about it and then going back and reading what you wrote, it seemed to have really helped you process through a lot of the stuff that was going on. How do you think the writing and revisiting the reflections impacted your life in a deeper way and even your productivity? Did you see a change in the way that you were able to move forward once you did that?
That again, thank goodness my mom saved all those letters because that really was a journal
Right.
keeping track of everything that was going on. I wouldn't have remembered a tenth of that stuff if she had
Right.
saved those letters. And really, that kind of was a good lesson to me that just exactly what you just said is to write down. If you think of a funny thing that happened to you as a kid, or if you think of something that's worthwhile to share and write it down, and then you've got it. And actually, since I've retired, I've written several books now on my childhood back in Iowa Falls,
Oh,
Iowa,
wow.
when I was
Right.
5 years old. It's like lessons learned in grade school, and it's two parts. Uh, Part one is me kindergarten through third grade, and the next part is fourth through sixth. But the interesting thing about my childhood is I grew up in a little town, small little town in Iowa, in the
Right.
1950s, and 5,000 people. So there was no crime. There was, we got on our bikes and we're gone all day.
Yeah.
Just be time for dinner. That's about what our mom said. So
Right.
lots of funny, silly, stupid things happened when I was a kid, and I got into trouble, but I learned.
Right.
I learned,
Like we always do.
and again, that kind of got me started into this journaling that you were talking about,
Right.
and it helps to get it down on paper and then look at it again, and of course you're going to edit it and make it clearer and take out unnecessary stuff. But that's really been my hobby since I retired.
Excellent. Excellent. So I'm sure you've done a number of podcasts as well, besides the one you're doing with me now. And I think being able to reflect on it, share about it, talk about it is even helping you to process even more, right? And I think it's a
Right.
really important lesson that as you're going through life, sometimes a lot of stuff happens that we have no control over, but it's not what happens, it's how we deal with what happens. Now, you actually were drafted at that time. I mean, imagine graduating college and you're like, okay, I'm ready to go out and start, my life and, get a job and so on. And next thing you know, you get this letter that says, put that on hold. You're actually going to another country to fight a war that you didn't start, right? But that you have to support your country with. How did military training, which is very demanding and structured, what are some of the habits from boot camp and flight school that carried over into your life that you probably even think about today that had on you?
Well, again, that's a great question because I've told many people that I think going in the military was really a very positive experience for me, all in all. They really taught me a lot of
Right.
discipline. And actually, in the officer programs, they really do let you use your brain a little bit and try and solve problems because hopefully you're going to be
Right.
leading other men in combat. I never did that. I didn't have to, I wasn't in the infantry, but that is, they instill that discipline. And that's really stuck with me actually through all these years. And I think the leadership qualities that they teach you are really just amazing because they kind of break you down at first in boot camp and then build you back up to what they want.
Yeah. So what would you say is one of the number one traits that you walked away with? If you could boil it down to one thing, what would that one thing be?
That's a good question to think about. And I think it might have been to be persistent and not get too upset over good things or bad things, just kind of keep things in even keel and go with the flow a little bit. Because in life, you're going to have a lot of situations that
Yeah.
hit you, are a big surprise, a big shock, and you really don't have any control over that. So,
Right.
and it's how you react. And I ran into this in computer software sales all the time. I mean,
Okay.
35, you spend all this time answering lots of questions, doing presentations, answering their questions, fitting it in their budget. And then all of a sudden they decide not to do it. And it's crushing sometimes to not
Right.
get a sale.
Right.
But again, it's persistent and you don't get too high, don't get too low. It evens out. You're going to get your percentage of sales and just be patient and just
Yeah.
keep at it.
Just keep working the process and be, like you said, be persistent and resilient, right? Be persistent and resilient is really important. Now, let me ask you this, because this just came to mind too. You spent all the time in the military, you're pretty much writing all the time, right? You're writing to your mom and you're kind of telling her stories of what's happening to your life and so you probably became a pretty good storyteller when it came to just recalling an event or a memory because you had so much practice in writing it. You were developing a really important skill for executive leadership, which is storytelling, right? I mean, everybody talks about it, but it's really just writing those letters that really hone that skill. How did developing the skill of writing and storytelling to the letters that you wrote your mom have an impact on your career as a salesperson?
Oh, in lots of ways. I really think that, again, the journaling, the writing on a regular basis, almost every day, of
Right.
just happening and trying to put her in my place. In other words, put the reader in what's happening.
Right.
And that to me was kind of the magic of telling a story is you put the reader into the story. And I really did hone that over several years in the military, writing regularly. It's like anything else. If you practice it a lot,
Right.
you'll get. And I think the letters did get better as I progressed through my military career. And again, I really miss not writing her letters after the military because we had the front
Right.
one in it, and those really fell off after the military. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things. But I was keeping track of on a journal how someone reacted to my presentation that day, or how.
Hmm.
So you kind of keep each client in a separate bin and kind of
Yeah.
see how they're progressing. And so
Yeah.
it helps to write things down like that to keep track, I think. And a lot
Yeah.
of
No,
people do it.
it really does. It really does. I think it really helps with processing because, we use our whole brain, right? We use our bodies, we use our whole brain. And writing engages the entire body because, especially if you're doing penmanship writing, not just typing, but if you're doing penmanship writing, there's a kinetic component to it. There's the physical aspect and the emotional aspect. There's memory, there's logic. You're bringing all these tools together. And, as you're doing it and you make it a regular practice. And so, if you're listening and you're thinking, hey, how can AI is coming and all these different challenges. What is something I can do to help me hone a skill the AI can't replace? Well, AI can do a lot of things, but it can't be human, right? It can't be human. And many times when we are telling a story and we've developed communication skill and we're speaking to another human about that, we're able to bring emotions. We're able to bring our experience. We're able to bring our facial and nonverbal skills and move them in a way that a story from ChatGPT is not going to be able to do. Right? It's not going to be able to do that. But by you developing that skill, it really helped you to build a great career in sales and really make a difference. And now, you look at your life and as you're retired and you're in this part of your life where it's a legacy building. Now you have this skill that you've honed for years of writing, which now you're able to leave a legacy of all of the information and all of the memories and all the things that you experience, and which I think is really, really an excellent way to share that wisdom.
I think you just hit the nail on the head when you said emotions, because that's what storytelling is all about, is your emotions, how you're reacting. And that is something that AI just can't do, I don't think, very well.
Right. Because AI is very, it's ones and zeros, right? It's bits and so on. But for us as human beings, our brains actually does, off and on with the electricity that it has, but it turns those electrical impulses into chemicals that have variance degrees. So oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin. And that's where all of the very nuances of emotions come that a computer just can't do, right? And our brains take 5%, it's like just a small portion of energy to run compared to something like that. But let me ask you this question. What advice would you give to leaders trying to balance high-stake responsibilities and their own personal well-being while leading in their companies or leading in their organizations? What advice from all of your experience of journaling and military and sales and so on, what's some piece of advice you would give them?
I would tell them that balance in your life. I always found when I was working and, again, I was married and had 3 kids. And when I left the office during the day, I carried my briefcase home. But once I got home, I shifted gears and I was in family mode for the rest of the day. And it really helped me to kind of separate the work and the fun of life. And you got to have, if you get way too much into work, you'll become a workaholic and really you'll lose a lot of the fun of
right. Well, you lose the reason why you're working, right? I mean, the reason we're all working really hard at trying to advance and why we want to grow our revenue or grow our income or whatever isn't just so that we can look back and go, we got a pile of money in the bank or we have this plaque on the wall. It's that we have the freedom and the ability to have experiences with our loved ones that we care about, whether it's being able to go on vacation, whether it's being able to go overseas, whether it's being able to take a trip, or whether it's being able to just go out to dinner or go to a park and just enjoy each other's company. And I think many times we can tend to forget that. We get caught up. And I think the balancing portion is correct. Because I've heard leaders say, well, when it comes to really making a difference, there's no balance. You either have to be all in or whatever. And I believe that you can balance, as you say. But I think it's the balancing is prioritization, because there are times where you have to focus. But even then, I think many of us will try to focus and we'll say, I'm going to focus and work for 10, 12, 13 hours. Our brains are not made that way. Our brains need breaks, right? And our brains need to break away from work to reflect on family. And while we're doing that, our non-consciousness in the background is working on work for us. And so it's a gift if we learn how it works. But if we don't, we can, that's the whole premise of Productivity Smarts, is really understanding how we work, how our brains work, so that we can balance and trust the process and trust how we're created, that when we put in the effort and we break away and say, okay, now I'm home, as you just said, I'm home, I'm going to spend time with my kids, my wife, I'm going to be home, right? I'm going to be present, right? When you do that, you're giving your brain the permission, because your brain is so powerful. You're giving it the permission to work on everything that you've been working on during the day. And by the time you wake up in the morning or that night, you may be taking a shower, you may be just having a cup of coffee in the morning, and this great idea about something you were working on yesterday, because you took a break from it, you now have this amazing idea. Well, that was your brain working in the background on that problem for you, because you gave it the ability to focus on something else more important.
And write that idea down.
Exactly. Journal about it, right? That's really, really important, is to journal about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, life isn't always great. It doesn't always go the way you want it to, no matter
Right.
what you do.
Right.
I had that problem to me very clearly. I was married for 23 years and had 3 beautiful kids that are all grown up, and 2 going to college and 1 in high school. And my wife got a brain tumor, and
Mm,
whoa, how do you do that? And she passed
right.
away at the age of
Yeah.
46. And
Oh,
so
wow.
again, it throws you into some situations that you really weren't seeing coming. And
Yeah.
I was worried about my son, who was just starting high school, how
Yeah.
he would react. I'm passing away. So he turned out to be great. I mean, he went on to college and became a lawyer, and he's doing wonderful. But it's just those sorts of things and how you react to them in your life. Some of them are going to be great, and some of them are going to be really horrible. But
Yeah.
again, that's life. We really,
Yeah, that's it, it is. It is. Life comes at you fast and you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. But by learning these skills, journaling, focus, prioritization, resilience, you're able to have some tools so that when life does come at you, be it good or bad, or whatever lesson it's trying to teach you, you can face it with confidence. And you can reach out for others for the emotional support and so on. And I think that's really important as well. But if you find yourself in a place where you don't have that, what you just talked about throughout and what you demonstrated in the book, which is that journaling process, is a way for us to kind of comfort ourselves and work through things sometimes ourselves. And even if you go to a therapist, many times they're going to say, hey, I want you to journal about this because they understand the value and the importance of it. So even if you go around other people, that part is really, really important about writing and just reflection. So listen, Don, this has been a great conversation. I would definitely say if you're in the military or you wonder what it's like to be in the military, any of those experiences, you look for a great book for a summer read or for a fall read. Letters to Mom is a really, really good book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It really was captivating from the first chapter and what you had gone through. And it really helped me to kind of get into your shoes and see life on the bus going to DC and the summer heat and all the stuff that you went through before you get down to Quantico and so on. It's a really good book. And so, Dom, if someone wants to read it, someone wants to connect with you, where can they go and where can they get the book?
well, it is on Amazon, and I'm working on
Okay.
the right now. It should be out shortly. But some people have problems finding the book on Amazon because they've got millions of books. So
Yeah, there's a few books called Letters to Mom.
my website is lifelessonsbooks.net. Life
Oh,
Lessons
wow.
Books.
Okay.
It'll show
I'll
up
make sure it's in the notes.
and it'll one click and they're right in the right page on Amazon to get the book. So it's a lot simpler
Excellent.
that way.
Thanks. Well, I'll make sure that that's in the notes. My team will make sure that, from a production standpoint, everything is taken care of here. Don, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. It's been a pleasure reading your book and learning about your journey and the powerful letters that you wrote to your mom. I know as it meant the world to her to receive that for you. But, as life would have it, it was actually something that you wrote for yourself that you discovered later that helped you to heal and that now has become a blessing to so many others. So thank you so much for taking that time, doing a very challenging time in your life to reflect and write, because you just never know the impact we're going to have to help other people on their journey.
Right.
So
Well,
thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate what
You're welcome.
helping them.
Excellent. If you're enjoying the content and finding it valuable, we would appreciate it if you could take a moment and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us and helps us reach a wider audience. If you leave us a 5-star review, it would mean the world to us. Not only does it help us improve the podcast, but it also helps us attract more sponsors and grow our community. Thank you again for your support and for listening to the Productivity Smarts podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Productivity Smarts, where we help you achieve your goals and live your best life. We hope you've gained valuable insights and actionable strategies to boost your productivity and increase your happiness and fulfillment. Remember to apply what you've learned and keep striving towards your goals. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring episodes and expert advice from our host, Gerald J. Leonard. Until next time, keep pushing forward and unleashing your productivity smarts.